Welcome to Talk Commerce. I'm Isaac Maury, and I'm excited to bring you an episode recorded live at eTail Palm Springs a few weeks ago. Our guest, fittingly, goes by the nickname Mr. eTail, but you may also know him as Chet Silverman. He's spent more than 2 decades helping grow eTail into the outstanding event that it is today, and in doing so, he's had a front row seat to the evolution of digital commerce, from the .com era to search, mobile, social commerce, and now AI. This was a super entertaining and insightful conversation, so let's jump right into it.
I'm Chet Silverman. I've been selling eTail for 25 years now. I'm known as Mr. eTail. I created the name myself, of course, around 5-6 years ago. And I sell the sponsorship for the show. And I've been selling it since 2001.
You want the first one? First show?
I did not do the first show. The first show was in 2000.
Okay.
It was in New York City at the Grand Hyatt, which is attached to Grand Central Station. And this is the best part. In 2001, the .com burst. And I got hired right after the internet crash. And they hired me, and I had to sell the eTail show when nobody was in business anymore. So that was my first experience with eTail, basically calling companies that were out of business.
How have things changed over 25 years?
Well, let's see. What was funny was it was always what was the hot kind of category? Like in the beginning of eTail, it's like color of the products. And we would have these companies that basically, Scene 7 was one name. I think IBM or Adobe bought Scene. I think Adobe bought Scene 7. They did moving the pictures on the screen. Like how do you turn a couch around? And there were a lot of those companies where you could turn a picture 360 so you can see the back of the couch. Like now, when you're on Amazon now, you get to see lots of different pictures, but and then of course fulfillment was in the beginning. I mean, if you can't get the package to you, we had shows all about fulfillment in the beginning, and then of course search. I mean, I still remember calling up Google for eTail Boston, 2002 maybe, and back in those days you just called the headquarters. Yeah, I'd like to speak to the marketing manager. And they put me through, and the guy's like, I never heard of eTail. And I go, that's okay, no one's ever heard of Google. And I convinced Google to exhibit at the show, at eTail Boston 2002. And they did the show for a couple of years, this beautiful white booth with the colored Google name. And then, of course, they realized they don't have to be in the show.
Hey guys, Alliance is outside.
Right, straight down there. Can't miss it, straight down. And then, of course, they did the show 3-4 years in a row, and then they realized they don't have to do any show because they became Google. So I knew Google before they were Google.
Yeah, no.
And then they became Google, the biggest company in the world. They never had to sponsor ever again. So yeah, it's interesting to see all the different technologies that come around. Search and email were, of course, gigantic, and we created a search day and an email day that we still have today. That still has legs. A lot of technologies kind of disappear, I remember when CRM was huge, mobile shopping was the biggest, right? Oh my God, a mobile phone. You can buy things on your mobile phone. But then, of course, everybody can do it now. So we don't really even talk about mobile shopping anymore in the show. Social commerce is big. In the beginning, it wasn't big. And we were talking about it. But now, it's one of the biggest, with all the influencers and the TikToks and, the Snapchat and all that stuff. So it's been interesting watching. And what I find interesting is watching companies grow up at eTail, where they come back every year and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And eTail's a big part of that, and then watching them get bought out. For example, Omniture. Remember when web analytics was the hottest craze? You had Website Story, you had Omniture, you had Core Metrics, and then I think, wasn't it Google that just basically gave away analytics for free? And then, of course, everybody was so upset. But I remember Omniture being bought out by, once again, Adobe. And yeah, I was kind of proud, because Josh James, he grew up at eTail. I used to negotiate with these CEOs when the companies were small, and now they were massive. So it's nice to see companies growing. And I love new companies. We make it a point to bring on brand new startups all the time. And sometimes if we have to give them free passes to come, we'll do that because we want them to see what they could do. And then eventually they get bigger and they start sponsoring the show. So it's fantastic.
You think that AI is not going to be the thing next year? It's just going to be just like mobile shopping. AI is just AI, right?
I think what's going to eventually happen is every single sponsor will be able to offer you, the retailer, AI. Now they can't because there's a few companies that are doing it, and I can tell what's going on. AI will be big next year. It might look completely different, and maybe in 2 years there'll be that consolidation. But I've never seen. I'm getting inquiries from .ai companies, and I go to the LinkedIn, and I always look up who it is, and it says founder, and it's like 3 months. I'm like, I had this guy start a company like 3 months ago, and I've never seen that. So there's so many AI companies popping up, literally in the last month or 2 months. I mean, listen, the money's flowing in AI. We're going to bring them to the show. A lot of them will be taken over. A lot of them will probably go by the wayside. But every single, in my opinion, sponsor, every single technology company that is working with retailers will be able to one day offer you an AI solution. It won't be so brand new. Just like mobile shopping, everybody can, or just like apps. Everybody can do apps now, so.
Want to give us the elevator pitch? Why should a company sponsor?
Well, a company should sponsor eTail specifically. First of all, if they want to grow as a company, let's take pre-COVID. Before COVID, you're a salesperson. You could literally call up the J. Crew headquarters in New York City, wherever they're located. Let me speak to the director of e-commerce. And you would go. They would send your phone. Sometimes someone would answer. You leave a message. If you call 3 or 4 times, maybe you get a call back. But since COVID, that same person doesn't work in the building anymore. So unless you have that person's cell number, which you don't, the only way you're going to meet these executives now is at a conference. Because they all work from home. COVID has changed the way you sell, especially in this industry. So you have to go to a show to meet them. And eTail, after 25 years, we've got a great reputation. We're not a trade show. And we always say we're not a trade show. To us, it's about the quality versus the quantity. Our ratios are usually 50-50, meaning 50% retailers, 50% solution providers. You will never see that in an e-commerce show. I'm not going to mention names, but just look at the other e-commerce shows out there. They're flooded with vendors, and it's not easy finding those buyers. At eTail, you find them all the time. Because we sell out. We're not going to keep selling because then it defeats the purpose, and we don't want to dilute the show. And that's why we do it twice a year. So you can go to Palm Springs in February, and then you can go to Boston in August. And that's a great timing because that's right before the holiday season. August to us is the last time a retailer can leave because they have to be locked down. And they kind of do they do the last minute shopping, right? They do that in August. And then when you come back to Palm Springs, then it's about what went right, what went wrong during the holiday season. That's what they love talking about here at eTail Palm Springs. Everybody has their war stories, and the retailers love to talk about what was great, and then they load up on solutions once again. But eTail is about education, lots of education. I mean, the sessions are amazing. We've got a lot of smaller kind of summits that the retailers love to go to, and we allow our sponsors to participate as well. We do not keep them out like a lot of shows do. We want our sponsors integrated into the retailers as well so they can share their stories and show them if you buy this solution or if you do this with me and my partner, you're going to sell more online. And that's what it's about.
Yeah, it's a big family.
It's a family. It's a community that we've created, and we've called every 6 months. We have a family reunion in Palm Springs and then in Boston. The beautiful thing about this show in Palm Springs is it kicks off the whole e-commerce season of shows. We're the first one. The NRF is not e-commerce. The NRF is National Cash Register, you know, that's the in-store. But eTail is the first e-commerce show of the year. And then all the other shows follow. So it's great timing.
That wraps up our conversation with Chet Silverman, Mr. eTail. A big thank you to Chet and to the entire eTail team for the great experience in Palm Springs and for continuing to build one of the strongest communities in commerce. If you enjoyed today's conversation, then I highly recommend attending eTail Boston this August. It's a great opportunity to connect with retailers, technology leaders, and partners from across the industry. We'd really love to see you there. That's all we have time for today. For more conversations like this, subscribe to Talk Commerce, and we will see you in the next episode.